The 2024 NBA trade deadline arrived with a lot of hype over potentially big moves going down to change the landscape of the league for the second half of the season, and while we did see quite a few moves go down, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a bit disappointing. With all of that being said though, a lot of teams managed to get better today, while others made some mistakes. That's what we're here to discuss in today's video, as I'll be going through my 3 biggest winners and 3 biggest losers from the trade deadline, based on moves they made, or even that they should have made but didn't. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoyed the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I'd also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. We'll start off with one of our big winners from the trade deadline being the New York Knicks. The Knicks have been a team with so much momentum building lately, and it all started with their trade to acquire OG Anunoby. Obviously, that trade doesn't factor into their inclusion here because it happened a while ago, but while that happened, they also remained very active on the final day of trade season today, bringing in some real difference makers in Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks. The full details of the trade they made with the Detroit Pistons are that the Knicks traded away Quentin Grimes, Evan Fournier, Malachi Flynn, and 2 second-round picks for Bogdanovic and Burks, which immediately feels like a huge steal for the Knicks. In the lead up to the deadline, reports were continually coming out emphasizing the fact that the Pistons wanted to get a first-round pick in return for Bojan Bogdanovic, if they were even going to trade him at all. So for the team to not only trade him without getting a first-round pick involved, but also add in Alec Burks and his 40% shooting from 3 to the deal, makes this a home run for New York. Especially with Julius Randle injured for the next few weeks, they needed some offensive firepower to fill in during his absence, and Bogdanovic has been a guy who can step in and score 20 points on any given night as a sharpshooting wing, and Burks has made a long career out of providing a spark off the bench. The Knicks are all in on this here, with there being clear openings in the East after the Bucks have started to look more beatable than ever, and the Sixers lost Joel Embiid for at least the next month. Now we'll go over the first team that lands on the list of losers from the trade deadline, being the team that actually dealt with the Knicks, the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons just can't seem to get anything right, taking more L's at the trade deadline to add to the L's that they have been taking on the court. Obviously, I just gushed about how good the trade they made with the Knicks was from the Knicks' point of view, but obviously when you look at the flip side of things, the Pistons basically just rolled over and gave away some of their only valuable trade assets for barely anything. They caved on their demands for a first-round pick, seemingly without much pushback at all, and while a player like Quentin Grimes being included in the trade isn't bad at all, as a 23-year-old that has shown flashes of being a floor-spacing two-way wing that can reliably fire up a high volume of threes and play some good defense, but his season this year has been a bit down from his first 2 years, and that led to his role being reduced in the Knicks' rotation, so the Pistons are getting him when his value is at its lowest. The Pistons also opted to just release Killian Hayes because they couldn't find a trade for him, so after using a lottery pick on Killian Hayes in the 2020 draft, that investment ends in absolutely nothing. Now back over to the next winner from the trade deadline, we have the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks made some solid strides in the offseason where they at least showed that their heads were in the right place with some of their ideas. Not all of their moves necessarily worked out according to plan, but they proved that they were focused on improving the defensive side of the ball while also bringing in more quality shooters to surround Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving with. Grant Williams was the key acquisition from that time, but unfortunately his impact this year wasn't quite up to par with what the team was hoping to get out of him, so they actually traded him today. The deal included the Mavericks packaging Williams, Seth Curry, and a lightly protected first-round pick for PJ Washington from Charlotte. Washington is a more capable scorer and moves way better without the ball. He's just been a bit of an afterthought in Charlotte during their lowly last couple of years. The Mavericks also went out and brought in Daniel Gafford to give them another capable center in their rotation, which is massive, because while Derek Lively has done a terrific job breaking out as a rim-running, defensive-minded big man as a rookie this season, they can't be putting all of the responsibility on a first-year guy, and Gafford is another player who has been quietly budding on one of the league's lowly teams, as someone who works well in pick-and-roll action, blocks shots inside, and can run the floor. So all in all, the Mavericks made some good moves to try to climb the standings before the playoffs. Now back over to the next team falling in the losers column, we have the Los Angeles Lakers. I don't think I'm going out on a limb here when I say that the Lakers season is not going how they wanted it to be going so far. The team is in 9th place in the West, currently in the bottom half of the play-in tournament bracket. They've struggled to find rotations and lineups they can consistently rely on, and LeBron James's patience has been very clearly tested and his frustration is mounting. He's sent ominous social media posts, his answers in press conferences have been pretty telling, and that combined with their performance on the court just didn't make it seem like they would be comfortable keeping things as they are. But that's exactly what they did. At the trade deadline, for what feels like the first time in forever, a LeBron James-led group made absolutely zero moves to try to bolster themselves for a playoff push. While some teams find themselves as losers for making bad moves, it can sometimes be just as bad to be a group in clear need of a move that doesn't make one. The Lakers are the 20th ranked offense in the league this season, relying very heavily on LeBron James and Anthony Davis to carry the load. And while it is worth pointing out that D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves have been playing much better as of late, I really don't think it's enough to save the season and turn things around completely. This is a group that absolutely expects to contend for a title, but they felt comfortable with their mediocre roster that has them on the outside looking in right now. And now for the final winner from this year's trade deadline, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder have soared to the top of the standings in the West this year, and the feeling was that they were going to do something to push in some of their chips in order to go for the title. They didn't go all out by adding a bona fide star, but they definitely got a clear upgrade in their front court with Gordon Hayward, and they were able to trade for him by basically throwing away the players at the end of their bench. Davis Bertans, Vasily Micic, and Trey Mann weren't really playing anyway, and they were the players that the Thunder traded in order to acquire Gordon Hayward from the Hornets. What makes Hayward such a strong fit for the Thunder, and what they're building, is that his skill set and play style seamlessly fit into a lineup because he's not a ball-dominant guy who needs the offense to run through him. In Charlotte, he always let the younger players do their thing and got his opportunities naturally within the flow of the offense. He's not a high-volume three-point shooter, but when he does take them, he'll knock them down at an above-average rate. He's a crafty mid-range scorer with a nice pull-up jumper, and he's also a good passer for a wing player with an unselfish play style, which is exactly what they preach in Oklahoma City. And finally, the last team in the losers column from the trade deadline is the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls find themselves in today's video for a somewhat similar reason as the Lakers, except their motivation was the exact opposite. Unlike the Lakers, who made zero moves because they felt good for a playoff run with what they had, the Bulls inexplicably made zero trades when the entire basketball world expected them to be sellers and fully transition into their rebuilding phase. The last 2 years have proven that the Bulls roster, as currently constructed, is not good enough to make any kind of noise in the East. They're holding on to false hope by continuing to pursue any level of glory with a team that is just not good enough to do so. The worst place you can be in the NBA is the realm of mediocrity, and that's where the Bulls have camped out over the last couple seasons. Zach LaVine opted for surgery, so his trade prospects disappeared with that news, but DeMar DeRozan is a 34-year-old volume scorer on an expiring contract, and there's just no good reason to hold on to him through the end of the season, when he's more than likely leaving as a free agent in the summer. There were also reports saying that the team's asking price for Alex Caruso was unreasonably high, so now in all likelihood, they're going to finish as a play-in team for the 3rd year in a row, and if they do somehow manage to make the playoffs, which seems very unlikely, they'll be swiftly eliminated in the first round. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below who you think had the best and the worst trade deadline this year. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.